Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val. And we're
That was
throwing
a
it
nice
back.
purple
That was
intro.
our original, I shouldn't say
Run that
old,
back.
our
It's been a while.
original intro.
Yeah.
Yep. We're throwing it back a little bit. We'll probably be back to normal next week or something similar. So, but
Is it the AI is a little glitchy?
Probably. I would say it's probably
Goes to the
AI's
machine.
fault. It's probably AI's fault.
The sound of the VCR loading, that just takes me back.
You can't really get taken over by a VCR, you know what I mean? Like it's
That's
not
true.
gonna just wake
Yeah.
up and then take you out.
Yeah.
No, technology in our day was much friendlier.
Back in our day.
Yeah.
I remember when we moved up to Laserdisc, and that was just an amazing thing.
That was
Yeah.
and for a blink of an eye. Laserdisc was a thing for like
Yeah.
a year and
Yeah,
then
and it was gone.
it was gone. It was
Yeah.
expensive.
It was.
They were like huge.
Big platters. Yeah.
I never owned one because I didn't have that kind of money when it came out. I was just a wee lassie.
I think by the time that it was like it would start getting more affordable is when DVDs started hitting the market, and then it was like these look exactly the same and are much smaller.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
and better quality too.
Yeah. Although my brother does have a Laserdisc player still.
Nice.
And he got it for one reason, to get the original Star Wars trilogy in the best possible quality. So he has that on
no fancy special effects added.
Yeah.
Jake, I feel like we're on that one of these things just doesn't belong here. One of these things just doesn't belong. Because you're not sitting in a room with a brown couch and a stark white wall.
Correct.
You're not as boring as us.
Listen, you guys bring all the charm and all the flavor. I've got to bring something.
I was going to go upstairs to my office, but
you said
I now have two parents living here.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, this is his house. My mother-in-law just moved in, and now I have 3 dogs. And 3 dogs that are like toddlers, because when they see me, I am not alone anymore. So I came downstairs to my room to like put away laundry. I got sidetracked. Don't tell anybody. I didn't put any of it away.
Mm-hmm.
But none of the dogs were down here. So if I would have gone upstairs, then they all would have headed upstairs with me, and then it would have just been scratching and whining and panting.
There you go.
Hands under the door,
Yeah.
So I just stayed down here in the nerd room.
Yeah.
And on the other side, there's DVDs, there's CDs, there's video games, there's all this stuff, but this wall has not. Yeah, Dave needs to decide what art to put up. He has a lot of art.
I can see that.
Babe's got a lot of art. Babe also has a lot of comic books.
I didn't know that.
That I need to start reading. Oh, boxes. Like this whole closet over here is boxes of comic books.
Doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, it did surprise me when I'm like, oh, you have comic books? And he's like, yeah, he knows a lot about comics. We were watching the X-Men 97, and he's just going off on all these things. And I was like, well, Ty, how you doing?
Yeah, but did he mention Mephisto once? Because if he didn't, it's not Ty.
No.
Right. Yeah.
No. Sorry, I have a runny nose. No.
I will say this. I'm wearing my X-Men shirt, so I'll say I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes of X-Men 97. I like where it ended the second episode. I like where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
If it's similar to what is in the comics, and I think it probably is. So
I've heard good things.
I read the comics, so I can't tell you yes or no. Sorry, Tracy, I talked right over the top.
Oh, you're fine. I was just saying I hadn't watched it yet, but I've heard it's good.
So here's and Val, you kind of mentioned this when we were talking about it in our chat. I think if you really enjoyed the animated series from the 90s, if it was one of your favorite series or you were a big fan, then you'll really like this. If you were just meh on the 90s series, it wasn't what you grew up with, then this probably isn't going to be that exciting.
I also think were so hard because I was kind of a lackadaisical X-Men. Like I would watch it, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and I know who the characters are, but I wasn't like deep into it. And so watching it to me, I was like, you know what I really dug about it is that they had the guts to just do it.
Yeah.
Because
and to continue
this is
with
a very specific experience. And usually studios want to make something that has a vast audience. And this is not that. You're either going to like it, like you said, Jake, if this was your thing back in the day, or there are some young people out there this day that just love the old style of comic books and comic. And so you've got that, I want to go to the original source kind of thing.
Right.
For me, I didn't love it or hate it. I just thought it was like, you know, they had the guts to go ahead and make this. Of course, there's a whole bunch of angry, middle-aged white people out there.
That's not my X-Men.
It's just like
your post about the crop tops killed me.
This is the thing, is all of the complaints that I've read so far about people not liking it is not anything new. Even me, as a lackadaisical watcher of this animated series back in the day, knows that they have not changed any of these characters. They were exactly like that back in the day, except for we weren't as publicly angry about it, and we minded our own business, and we didn't put so much thought into things that we didn't care for, right? They were kids, so they didn't maybe realize they were just enjoying something without having a stupid opinion about it. Just enjoy it.
If what a cartoon character is wearing upsets you to the point where you have to go post about it online, you have a really good life.
Well, and to be upset that it might have possibly ruined the show that you enjoyed when you were a kid, like you said, Val. I mean, Gambit dressed like that in the comics all the time. Like I saw it, and it didn't even faze me because I'm like, that's Gambit from the 90s. Like it looked, it was right on brand, and so I didn't feel like it was a big deal. But the stuff that bothered other people didn't bother me, so I enjoyed every minute of it. So
yeah, I mean, I just think there's a lot of that going around. And look, I am all for people having opinions. I'm not saying that you can't have one.
Right.
But when your opinion is wrong,
and
in this way, it's not wrong because I don't agree with it. It's wrong because nothing has changed about it. Like he has always looked that way. All those characters, it was like I just had turned on what I watched when I was a kid. I'm watching a rerun, right? That's what it felt like to me. Like I just had turned it back on. And so when you're angry about something that you didn't used to be angry about because now you've grown up and you just hate the world, that's when I have an issue with it. Like I will keep scrolling, but sometimes I like to jump into those comments. So good.
And honestly, if you're upset about the Gambit crop top, I mean, Magneto's skin tight suit and his long flowing hair is, I mean,
why isn't anybody about He-Man? Why isn't anybody like Dave the whole time? Babe does not like Cyclops. And I think he's like,
he's a cool
what
guy.
A douche with his underwear on the outside of his pants all the time, running around like he's the best person ever. And I was like, I didn't realize people just did not like him so much.
Yeah, anybody that tells me that Cyclops is their favorite, I'm like, I really don't want to get to know you better. I just feel like that just tells me.
Is it the underwear that's on the outside of the pants? Because Superman does that too.
No, that doesn't bother me. He's just a jerk.
I like how Jake was like, you can see him.
Wolverine is not a jerk.
But Wolverine's jerkiness is like justified. Like Cyclops is just a teacher's pet,
drawn to be a
pretty boy. You just want to punch him in the face. That's just who Cyclops is. And you like Wolverine because Wolverine sees that about Cyclops and also wants to punch him in the head, but with his claws.
And you felt that way.
What's that?
You felt that way your whole life?
Oh yeah, I've
Okay.
never liked Cyclops.
Okay.
I also didn't like Leonardo, as far as the Ninja Turtles go, for a lot of the similar
I thought
reasons.
you were like DiCaprio, and I was like, well, let's
No,
talk about
DiCaprio's
it.
fine. And my dislike for Leonardo is much, much smaller than Cyclops. Cyclops is just the worst. And in the comics, he's even worse. Like, Jean could do so much better. Like, come on. Jean.
I mean,
Wolverine's right
she could
there,
do
or
so much
literally
better in a
anybody else.
lot of ways. She's got a lot going on.
Jean does.
There's Jean is not my favorite. Am I going to get in trouble for that?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
I don't love that she's like always the main focus female.
Yeah, I would love to see more Storm stuff. Honestly,
I
Storm's
really
probably my
like this
favorite.
story. I didn't know about this storyline with
Yeah.
Storm, and it was really cool. I know we're not going to totally get into this, but anyway, I'm learning a lot about it, but it's also so familiar to me, right? Like I again, just being this like surface person watching the cartoons because it was in between two other cartoons that I absolutely loved, like I know what they looked like. I know what they acted like. I didn't hate any of them, like freaking Cyclops, but I wasn't on the know. But there's a lot of politics going around about like nerd movies right now, and we're talking about a political movie tonight. But I want to touch something really quick. Like I don't want to spend more than 5 minutes on it. But I got a little frazzled today because there is there's an election for the board that's going on for Disney right now.
Yes.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
there was a little comment made by one of the guys that would like to be the
Mhm.
successor.
Trying to force himself over the
And
board.
he basically, yeah, he wants to basically take over Bob Iger's position. His name is Nelson Peltz. And he basically said, why do there have to be all girl superhero movies?
Yeah. And why are there all black superhero movies?
Well, he said what I read is that he said, let me make sure that it's right here.
Quote him
He
correctly.
did say that Black Panther wasn't all a black cast, so he doesn't understand why we need to have an all female cast movie.
That's
Now,
a different
I
quote than I
haven't
read.
seen the Marvels yet, but is every single cast member in the
No,
Marvels a
Samuel L.
female?
Jackson's in it.
Okay.
Fury is still a man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fury's there. Her family's in it.
Yeah, her
Yeah.
brother, her
So
father.
His brother. Like the
so
major
I
roles are female, but
yeah, to me, there was a lot of comments. I dove into that comment section quick.
ooh, that's murky
And
water.
well, no, it was pretty logical. It was pretty logical in
Oh,
that I believe that we should be able to watch and make whatever kind of movies that we want, right? And if you
sure,
do not
sure.
want to see a specific kind of movie, then don't go and watch it. I do not gravitate towards female superheroes very often. But it's probably because I have been watching male superheroes on the big screen and small screen my entire life.
Yep.
So I relate to Tony Stark. I gravitate towards him. I gravitate towards Spider-Man. All these things. I don't have an issue with that. Just because I don't gravitate towards a female superhero doesn't mean that I don't think they should get enough play. Like, why shouldn't they get their own movie? Why can't they have a whole scene in a Marvel end game that doesn't upset people to the point where they hate the whole movie because there's one scene with strong females in it?
Right.
I don't, for him to get up and say that, just put him in the biggest stereotypical white guy category in the world. I have nothing against white people. I have nothing against white males. What I have,
we dodged that bullet.
That's good for us. That's good move.
I have don't make stupid comments. It was, even if you believe it, if you want to take Bob Iger's position, maybe don't say it out loud.
Yeah, he said the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet. Yeah,
But the problem is that kind of comment is really appreciated and attractive to a certain population
Oh yeah.
that has a certain agenda as far as Disney would be concerned and as far as anything is concerned. And so he's playing to that demographic. My hope is that there's just not enough of those out there that are shareholders in Disney that would be able to vote him in.
yeah.
I mean,
He
I
did
think
say,
go ahead.
Valerie. He did say, Marvel films were woke, and why do I have to have a Marvel movie that's all women? Why do I need an all black cast?
Yeah. Yeah. Um well, but I think if you scroll down even more, he was like, yeah, Black Panther didn't have an all black cast. There was a couple of, white guys in there.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
but
They weren't important characters,
I
really.
just think he's not reading the room,
Yeah.
and that he isn't this for me. That what I like about the Disney company, one, they're not perfect. They make a lot of mistakes. I know I drink the Disney Kool-Aid, but I get when something needs some work, right? Disney, like everything, needs work. But the whole idea about Disney is that it moves forward, it's innovated, and it's not ever complete, right? Just like Disneyland, just like Walt, just like everything. It's got to be innovated all the time. If you're not moving forward with change, you shouldn't be on the board of Disney.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully, from what the board used to be, it's been pretty diverse in the past as far as creativity, businesses, that kind of like leaders of businesses go. And what I love about Bob Iger is that he sees the change. He may not always be in charge of it, but if somebody comes to him and says, "You need to look at this," he's not like, "No, I have my ideas. Go away."
Mm-hmm.
Right? He has an open door policy when it comes to ideas, and that trickles down through the entire, Disney circuit, because that's how I felt when I worked there. Like, we constantly pushed our ideas up to the top. So I hope, like,
I will say this. There are 33 MCU films so far. 33. If we count Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the Marvels, and then if you really want to stretch it and count Black Widow in there as female led and
Right.
Captain Marvel as female led, that brings us down to that's 5 total. So it brings us down to 28 that are white male led
Yep.
superhero movies.
Yep.
So if you want to
I don't know, that's not enough, Jake.
5, that
if you want to
ratio.
know why we need an all female cast, and it's not all female or an all black cast, that's why.
Yep.
Because it's already disproportionate.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, and I don't think Disney's out there trying to make an all-female movie, an all-black movie, but having these other superheroes in the forefront of the movie and not being sidekicks all the time, but it's their movie.
Right.
I mean, that's all they're trying to do, and all I want to see is other stories.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many characters out there that we could see that are different. Yes, keep giving us, the regular ones. I love the originals, right? That they put out in the MCU. But also there are thousands more that we could be learning about and watching. And I just when I read that, I was like, he said that out loud. Did everybody he said it out loud?
Yeah. I don't know why we're getting as political on this one. We don't normally, but I don't have a problem.
Sorry,
I think
it was me.
No, those are the things that people don't totally grasp.
We're going to get more political with our movie tonight.
When my daughter saw Troy Kotsur win Best Actor for Coda a couple of years ago, and that it won Best Picture, they felt represented, they felt seen, they felt appreciated for their culture. We need more of that and not less. That doesn't mean we can't appreciate what we've always had.
No.
And the great thing with Coda,
opportunities to appreciate other things and different stories and different experiences. Um, I don't see how making a Black Panther movie takes away from the Captain America movies that are already out there.
Yeah.
So, or a Marvel's movie, which I thought was delightful. Was it perfect? No, but it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Doesn't take away from Thor or any other.
And that's the thing, is that people get into, well, if we are doing this, then what about this? We don't have to take anything
It's not an
away
either
from this
or.
side to do this side. They can both happen. Yeah.
Anyway, so tonight we're not talking about more Marvel
X-Men
stuff.
or
But we are going to talk about Minority Report starring Tom Cruise.
This is one of my favorite Spielberg movies. I think he hit this one out of the park. And I'm just going to be upfront about it right up front.
Wow.
This one just hits on so many levels for me.
That's an interesting. I'm not disagreeing. I think it's
Right.
a really good movie, but it's interesting that this is one
I'm
of your
not saying it's
favorites.
his best, but I love what he did with this.
Okay.
Because there are times where Spielberg, like, he softens his edges. Like, he will sand off the edges of things a lot of times. Right. But he didn't do that with Schindler's List, which was a real worry. When that came out, everybody was like, how are you going to get the guy who did E.T. to do the Holocaust? And he left it raw and rough. And he does that in this one, which I think is great. He doesn't hold back on this one.
Yeah. I wasn't going to disagree with your opinion. I just thought it was an interesting one because you don't often hear people say that about Minority Report. You hear
Right. And I
Jurassic
think this
Park,
is a really
Saving Private Ryan.
underappreciated one in his genre or his library. Yeah.
Don't tell Steven this, but I always forget that he directed this movie.
Mm.
That's how I think that's good, because it's how separate it is from his regular work. Because for me, it was like that, Tracy. I was like, what a fun jump off for him, because again, I keep talking about guts, like having the guts to do something that your audience doesn't expect from you. Right. And to step away from what he was making at the time to make this, which was already at that time such a weird idea for a movie. Like Tracy, pitch us this movie.
Yeah. So you have a future where you have 3 people who lay in a tank and can visually project murders before they happen. And then the police will go and arrest those people before it happens. And then we like neural lock them up. Like, we don't kill them, but we like, I don't know what, it's kind of a stasis. Like, they're kind of like trapped in a weird prison thing. Yeah.
I don't know. You're talking about, Tracy. I'm not putting money into this movie, but Steven Spielberg's going to direct it. I mean,
the crazy thing is too, is like how much of this stuff was cutting edge at the time that's now normal everyday science that we have. Like, the technology from this movie is not that far-fetched anymore.
Yeah. We still don't have precogs, unfortunately.
We don't have precogs, but you've got,
that we're aware of.
The whole
that's a fair point.
The whole being able to manipulate video and stuff on a screen without having a physical medium. Like, that's the new Apple thing. I can't remember what it's called, but the new vision goggle, whatever,
Gosh, now I can't think of what it's called. Is it just Apple Vision?
It might be.
It might. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Self-driving cars. It's not all cars, but we do have self-driving cars now, which at the time was pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, but now the thing that was interesting, you're right, because a lot of this stuff we can see in our technology today, and watching it now, so it takes place in 2054, so that's 30 years from now. And honestly, I could see the technology that we have evolving into what they have in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like that. When I went back to screen it, sometimes we'll watch these sci-fi, these futuristic movies that are now so close to our timeline.
Right.
And you're just like, that was so crazy that, like, that's not. And then you watch something like this, and then the movie we're going to talk about next week, and it really, like, I see it happening. in
Right.
10 years. Like, I'm sure some of it, like you said, some of this stuff is already happening now in certain places, and if you have enough money, right?
Right.
But to have a system like this in the government
Hmm.
scares me.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
to have something like this scares me, especially when we have people like the ones we were just talking about with these opinions,
Hmm.
Mhm.
Well,
right?
the thing that's so cool about this movie is I love the set design of
Yeah.
this movie, because you have this police headquarters, and it's only in Washington D.C., so it's not going, but it's planning on going nationwide. But you have something that is so futuristic and so scary that the set design, all the police stuff is glass. It's all see-through. It's all transparent, because they're trying to be like, no, see, we're not hiding anything.
Mhm.
There's nothing to be afraid of. This is for the benefit of everybody. And then when you go into the city, then everything is this grungy, dark, dingy, everything else. But everything in the police world is very clean and very transparent and very see-through. And that is just such a cool set design, where it's like psychologically that makes sense that the police would, because when you think of like a police station, you think of cement and bars and gray, and they did the opposite of that in order to try and sell this idea, which I think is just a very, very cool idea.
Yeah. I also love the way they differentiated the dream sequences. I guess they're not really dream, but like
The memories.
the memory sequences. I really liked how kind of gritty and blown out
Uh-huh.
those were, and they made the um, what is it called? I don't know what the film technical term is right now, but kind of going into like fast and slow. The
Oh yeah.
tracking
Hmm.
was a little bit different, because it just made you feel, because sometimes your dreams you feel a little discombobulated, you feel a
Yeah.
little out of it, and so it
Yeah.
made you really feel that way. So then it was more believable. But I think this movie holds up, and
Absolutely.
the
Hmm.
cast is fantastic.
Yeah. Colin Farrell, Samantha Morton, Tom Cruise, Neil McDonough, Max von Sydow. Holy
Mhm.
crap!
Mhm.
I love Neil. Like, he is such a good actor. And
Oh, Peter Stormare. He's always creepy in everything,
yeah,
which I love. Like, he's the weird silent guy in Fargo. If you don't remember,
Mhm.
he's the eye doctor in this one.
yeah.
Oh,
He's he is such everything I've seen Peter in, I have loved. And it's the same, like, if you don't think you know who Peter is or who Neil um, McDonough, right,
yeah. Hmm.
is, like, as soon as you
He's one of those.
see
You see
their
him and you're like, oh, I
faces,
know that guy.
yeah, and they're such good actors. I don't want to say character actors, but they do often play a
I would say they're
specific
character.
type of character,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they're always believable, because times you'll say the word character actor and you're like, oh, they're a character actor.
And I just saw Roadhouse, so I can totally go with this one because I know Val's seen it. The Gyllenhaal, I
Blech.
couldn't get
Gyllenhaal.
past the fact that
The
it was the
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Like, I never got into that character because it was just the Gyllenhaal. But somebody like Peter Stormare, you're like, oh, I recognize him, but yet you can still get into his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were some parts in Roadhouse. I won't get too into it.
I don't either. But
In the fight scenes, I believed him, but that shouldn't be what it is in this movie. Even though we all know who Tom Cruise is, and
right,
he plays similar characters in his movies, right? I still believe Tom Cruise
he's
in
John
every
Anderton.
movie that he's in. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's John Anderton in this. He's Maverick. He's the different. It's Tom Cruise, but
Yeah,
it's that character.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's what makes him one of the greats. But um, Neil plays a lot of characters that I kind of just want to punch in the face,
he's
Yes.
so good at it, though.
and he's amazing at it. Like, he shows up, I'm like, yeah, I don't know what his character is in this, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to hit him, and I
Yeah.
never do. because they're movie characters and I can separate reality
And you've
from.
never met him in real life.
And I've
And
never met him in real
I
life,
bet
but I
in real
imagine
life
he's a
he's
nice guy.
pleasant. I bet
Yeah.
he'd be a good person to like sit and share a sandwich with, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
Like,
see
I don't
that.
think Neil himself is punchable, but he plays these characters that you just don't like.
They're
Yeah.
so
And he does
fun
it.
to not like, though.
It's true. And I think that's what makes him talented as a character actor like that, is because every time he makes you really not like the character
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
not supposed to like.
Well,
So
and the thing that's really cool about this movie too is like so much of what Spielberg did on the making of the movie, like the behind the scenes stuff, is commonplace now, but he was doing it for the first time. And so you guys have heard of pre-visualization or pre-viz, I'm sure, right?
Mhm.
So nowadays you can like Avatar, when they're filming Avatar and they have the guys in the motion capture suits, you can look on the monitor and you can see not a fully rendered version, but you can see what the Navi will look like. They're in the blue skin, they're and it makes the computer can do that. But at the time when Spielberg was doing that, like the scene where the spiders are going through and searching the apartment buildings and they're scanning everybody's eyes to find John Anderson, and he's just had the surgery. And this scene is phenomenal filmmaking. This is Spielberg on like all levels because you have this camera that is constantly moving throughout this scene, and it's all in like one take. And it has to go like up into the ceilings, and it's going from room to room, and it's going down through vents. So while they were trying to figure out, nowadays you just use a lot of that computer work, or a lot of the camera work would be done in a computer, but they did it with large physical cameras. They had to build a crane that would be able to move to shoot down through the ceiling and down through these vents. So they had to program the crane on how to make all these movements. And so they had to develop the software that they would develop the set. And then they built the set based on what the crane would do. And so now, like I said, that stuff's all commonplace now, but Spielberg kind of invented it because he had to, because there's no other way to do that scene.
well, that's why we appreciate Dr. Spielberg. Life, dinosaurs,
He's just
spiders.
trying to keep up with Lucas.
Yeah.
What
But
They're
that
both they're
scene,
both pushing things forward, you know, and
I
creating
think
it.
Steven Spielberg has lapped Lucas.
As far as creating new technical abilities for
he's
film,
he's up there with like Cameron,
I mean,
Lucas, Spielberg.
I think all three of them have
That's
opened
the
doors
Mount
for
Rushmore
everything
of
after. Yeah.
yeah. But that scene is like it's so good. If you want to like everybody talks about how if you want to learn about how to have suspense in a movie, watch a Hitchcock film. And I totally agree. Like Hitchcock was the master, but this sequence with the spiders to me is some of the most intense filmmaking Spielberg's done outside of like a Jurassic Park, because you have these spiders searching and the camera's moving because the cops are moving. The cops are searching. The spiders are moving. So the camera is constantly moving. And you've got Anderton who is trying to hide. He dumps the ice into the bathtub. He climbs into the bathtub. You cut to the police officer who's like, we've lost him. Okay, maybe it was a weird cat. Maybe there was a cat in the building because they're counting lives, heat registries. And the music, John Williams music in this, it's like this violin, it's like and it's just kind of this like you're on edge. And then he's in the bathtub and the sound drops out completely. And you have a close up of Tom Cruise, and this one little bubble comes out of his nose and floats to the surface. And then there's this surface tension where the bubble just sits there, and you're like, okay, it's going to be okay. And then you just hear this pop. And all of a sudden, the violins cut in again. And the spider turns around. You're like, oh, it's on. Like here, and the spider comes up and zaps him. And he's not supposed to take the cloth off for 24 hours or 48 hours. I can't remember. And you're like, it's too early. The buzzer hasn't gone off yet. He's going to go blind. It's just this, it just builds and builds and builds in that scene. It is so much fun. Sorry.
Yeah. That's what we're here for, right?
Before
every time I watch it, I get so excited because he's firing on the music, the set design, the spider design is creepy as heck. The way that they film it just works so well.
Tracy did promise us before we started recording that he was gonna nerd out on this one a little bit.
That scene just every
I'm
time.
here for it.
Oh, it's so good.
I do think that what I did forget about this film is how tense you feel the entire time. The
Yeah.
minute that you start to kind of like settle in, like don't, because there's something else coming.
Yeah.
It's this constant, friction, which is so good. Even like one of my favorite scenes is when he gets into the room with the bathtub and
Yeah.
he's got to get her out of there. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, where are you going to go?
At the cop station. Yeah.
Yeah, like where are you going to go? It's just like, and you're carrying a person, so
Right.
it's like that scene is one of my favorite scenes. And I just think she is such a great actress.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
she doesn't, people look at it and they might think, well, she didn't really do much. It was a simple role. No, but to be that simple and believable and to have that distress, but have the moments where you don't feel anything to then the over feeling everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just,
She
yeah,
sucked me
it was
back into
great.
The Walking Dead. Like I was giving up on The Walking Dead, and she comes in and plays this character, sucked me completely back in for a little while. And then when she left, then I was like, there's only like one season left. I guess I can muddle through to finish this thing because I felt like I'd invested so much. But I was ready to give up till she came on, and she was so good that I was like, okay, I'm back. Yeah, she's very underrated as an actress.
I gave up 10 minutes in.
I was a fan with the Frank Darabont seasons, and then I felt obligated to stick it out for a while, and then I did, but
I didn't.
I haven't gotten into any of the other spin-offs, but
He was probably the big reason why I didn't get into it. I didn't like him.
Shawshank
Anyway.
Redemption?
What's that?
Shawshank Redemption? You talking Frank Darabont?
Yeah. No. What? I thought we were talking about Walking Dead.
Yeah, he directed the first season.
Yeah.
And so when you said he's the reason, so I was like, you're not a Frank Darabont fan?
No, I like Shawshank Redemption. I just didn't like the story flow in
Gotcha.
Dead.
I
Sorry.
thought it was boring.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was unclear.
Anyway.
I apologize.
But this movie definitely
thing
not boring.
And the thing I like about this one too is I like it when you have somebody like Tom Cruise who this is not a great person. Like this is a very flawed character. And I like the fact that he doesn't try and make him this ultra heroic figure. Like he's sympathetic, but he's not like your typical
he's a
hero.
drug addict.
Yeah.
And
I think if you read this script, you wouldn't necessarily think of Tom Cruise as your first guy that you'd pick.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a good idea to have your character that is being wrongly accused,
right?
A stereotypical, like somebody would say, well, he's a drug addict. You know what I mean? Not to put you in a weird position, Jake, but it's such a good idea because just because someone has committed a crime in the past or they, have used drugs or I don't know, like people put stereotypes on so many, they're covered in tattoos, whatever, that must mean that they're guilty. And so to not have this clean cut, all American guy be the suspect is so much, I think, more important for the story and more enticing because, why wouldn't he do this, right? Why wouldn't the cops think that he did this because of all these other things, right? And it makes it more believable that he could figure out how to get out of it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because like if he was just a regular 9-to-5er guy, he wouldn't have made it a day, right? He wouldn't maybe he would have. Maybe I shouldn't put that into a stereotypical box either.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was such a great idea to not have him be what you think that he should be. And Colin Farrell's character.
Colin Farrell is great in this.
Well, this was his swarthy, like this was the area of his career where he was all about being breathy and mysterious and like, not really doing a whole lot, but he's doing a ton. You know what I mean? Like that's not a bad thing, but he has definitely stepped out of that.
I like how they not only twist Cruise's character because when you hear Tom Cruise, then you find out that he's a drug addict and that he's mourning the loss of his son. But with Colin Farrell, like they try and make him out to be the bad guy for most of the movie.
And then you realize he's not.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, and he's actually really trying to, like, he's sincere and
Legitimately,
genuine in what he's doing, and I think that's something that runs throughout the film with these the 3 characters, right? Because then you've
yeah,
also got the judge guy, judge or doctor,
Mex
yeah,
yeah,
who
the
is the bad guy.
Mexico,
Yeah,
director Lamar or Lam
yeah,
yeah,
so he's the
Lamar,
director of it, and he ends up being the bad guy, and he puts out this whole, like, sympathetic old man,
right,
he wants to help Anderton, he's, kind and whatever, and then you find out, no, he was the one behind
the
the
whole thing.
murder, and he kills Colin Farrell's character, tries
Mhm.
to kill Anderton a couple times, like, you don't get those vibes from him at the beginning, and I think
Right,
that's
right.
interesting because with John, you see him out there working and being in crime and being kind of this hero that's leading it. He's the chief, and he's, you know, very much a typical Tom Cruise character in that he is amazing at everything that he does, mainly because Tom Cruise is amazing at everything that he does. And then we get into him and how he's not perfect, like you guys mentioned.
Yeah,
And I think it's just really brilliantly done with all 3 of those characters to kind of portray them in a very different light at the beginning compared to where they are at the end.
yeah. And when I used to, when I taught film, I would show clips from this movie and teach about different things. And one of the things that was really interesting when I because I would do research on this film, and they talked about how as the cinematographer, when they were doing the scenes where you're doing the pre-crime and he's scrubbing the footage, like he's looking for clues and he's manipulating his hands to watch the footage, to rewind, to throw the clip. And in order to do this, because a lot of it was done in camera and then they had to augment it with the little CG that they had available at the time. Now the whole thing would just be CG. But at the
Mhm.
time they're doing like glass that's like reflecting. So like Tom Cruise, it's kind of like the Haunted Mansion effect where it has the pane of glass with the dancing ghosts. So he's looking at something and seeing the reflection. And so he has to manipulate his hands in very specific ways, and he has to do it over and over for the continuity. So he can't just be like moving his hands. He had to like remember physically as if he was actually doing those movements, which I and it goes to the talent of Tom Cruise and his perfectionism that they were like he would come to set and he knew it and he did it, and we didn't have to do a lot of takes. Like he just nailed it every single time.
Well, and it wouldn't have, with everything that they created to be able to shoot that movie, it would have been very expensive to have to do more takes. Like,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
different when you're shooting with those types of cameras. In that situation, it's not the same as digital. Not
Mhm.
only are you, when you have to take more takes, is it more time with all the cast, crew, everything, but those cameras and how they have to move.
They
And
eat up film so
yeah, that
fast.
film, man,
It goes through that
we want
camera
to talk
so
about
fast.
Hitchcock. What a waster. I have opinions about him, but we won't get into it on this episode.
Yeah. We haven't even gotten into the morality of the film
Please.
and the
Yeah.
moral implications of, is it okay to arrest these people that haven't technically committed a crime
Right.
and halo them and basically take them out of commission? I mean,
Mhm.
is that right or
It
wrong?
sounds good.
It sounds great. We want to save lives. We don't want people to die.
So did Jurassic Park.
Yes.
The
Well,
thing is that as we talk about these AI movies, which we're going to be
Right.
talking about a few more of them, is that AI has some very good reasons to be AI, right? The
Right.
things that AI can help with medically,
Uh-huh.
physically, just
Mhm.
different things like that. But then you add in humans, and we abuse the powers that we are given to us. That is just in our nature,
Right.
is to abuse what we create. And then we basically hurt ourselves with the things that we've created, right? And so when this movie came out, you had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, this will solve everything." And,
Mhm.
we should
Mhm.
totally do this. And then you realize it was being manipulated by a higher power at the end. And so
Right.
it's, for me, one, I do believe, that's my personal belief, is that just because you've thought it, just because you've gotten so close to it, doesn't mean that as a human you can't change your mind,
Right.
right?
Right.
There is always a chance for you to change your mind, and it can be last minute. So,
Well,
and with all of the multiverse movies that we've seen out there, just
Well,
because you saw it here doesn't mean it's happening here.
yeah, and the other thing is too, you got to take into account the prejudices of the people who are writing the software
Well, that's
to begin with. Recently, Google had to shut down their AI generator because people were putting in requests for images where it was creating like Jewish popes, and it was doing like Nazi Holocaust material. Like it was coming up with some stuff for AI generated images that they were like, oh wait,
humans
crap.
abusing the system. Yeah,
Exactly. So somebody you had a human who created the system, and humans aren't perfect, therefore the system's not necessarily going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So as I watched this, I thought, because they said, once they have that vision,
It's done.
it's always right. Like it's never been
It's
wrong.
always going to happen.
Yeah. And my thought was, because he doesn't murder the guy that he's supposedly going to murder, that, that they didn't see, and that they saw in the vision, and he ends up shooting himself. And um I just thought, did nobody have the idea, as these precogs kind of come online and they're seeing these visions of like, hey, maybe we can save two lives here. Like we can stop the murder from happening, and then get the person who's going to commit the murder like mental health help that they need.
Yeah.
Or, and especially like,
It's so much easier to lock them up.
well, okay, and that is,
Yeah, we do think that in
traditionally,
America.
Yeah.
traditionally that's the American justice system, is it's
Yeah.
much easier to lock people up. But I just thought that was interesting. Like, why?
Very good question.
Because you look at the first murder that he goes and he stops and he arrests the guy, like that was a murder of passion.
Right.
And he lost his mind because of what was happening. His wife was cheating on him with this other guy. And so you stop the murder, but then help this guy get through a really tough time, because I don't think he's going to go out and murder again.
Right. Right. Yeah, it was a one time, and they mention that. They say that the pre-planned murders have gone completely away because everybody knows they're going to get caught. So the only ones that happen are the spur of the moment type of things. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but I
but
like it.
helping people isn't sexy. So
I know.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Jake. Like that's for me too. That's why I think this is morally, one, it can't be 100% all the time. This is,
Right.
whoever said this is always correct. Well, but how do you know? Have you
And-
tested it throughout the entire space of time?
Well,
Yeah.
and if you stop it every time, if you stop it more often than you don't know that it's always right, because it never
Right.
plays through to the end.
So it's
Right.
just they,
And
and
I love
they are saying that it works all the time. But yeah, there should be okay, we're going to stop it. And then this person goes on, in a program, and they have a certain amount of time where they have to be helped in a program, right?
Yeah.
But,
well, and I love too that you have Anderson's speech speaking to Colin Farrell about the ball, and you caught the ball. The ball was always going to fall, but you caught it. So you stopped it, but it was always going to fall. So you have that argument. And then later, and he's such a believer in this, like he is completely 100%. This is absolutely correct. And then later, when he finds out that sometimes the precogs have different visions and there's different versions, and then all of a sudden it's like his whole world collapses. Like, oh, wait a minute, I've put away. And I love that scene where he's in the prison with all of the people, and it's like, I put all of these people away, and maybe I shouldn't have. I think that is such a powerful moment, that she sometimes sees something different, and the judge manipulates. He knows the system, so he can manipulate the system to get away with a murder, to cover up what he did.
well, and all I could think is how relevant to this day, right?
Yeah.
We have our own political justice system right now that is going through, some turmoil from the last 15 years of realizing that our system has been flawed from the beginning, and people being put away because of other people's ideas, and what they want to have the world look like. And so now you've had people in prison for half their lives or their whole lives that were not guilty of what they did, or they
Or
got sentences
minor.
that were way
Yeah.
off of what they should have been because of someone else's
The war on
idea.
drugs.
And yeah, I mean, but also like other things, you know, people are being pardoned left and right for murders they didn't commit. We
Right.
find out people that have gone through the death penalty, you know, years later, now that we have the right
The new
kind of
DNA.
DNA, that they didn't create those murders. So as I'm watching this, like I was getting what you were getting, Tracy, and I'm like, this isn't so futuristic. This has been a problem in the justice system the entire time the justice system, you know, has been out there. And so to me, it was like, we just, as humans, we keep replaying the same problem.
Yeah.
We just upgrade it. We've now upgraded from the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 25. You know what I mean? Like we just keep upgrading our mistakes, and we want it to get better. We do. Like it's not out of malicious intent.
And the people, the people who set this system up did so in the hopes that this would be a better thing, but then it gets a little tainted here and a little tainted here and a little manipulated here, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. Yeah. But it's so always relevant. The best intentions. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole episode is political.
Yeah. And the thing that scares me too is like, you see how easy it is now, because it used to be if you saw a video of something, you were like, I can believe that. And now the way that the computer can manipulate voices and images and create these things that look so believable. And they came out, they did a study of like 2,500 people, and they presented them with 12 statements, and they were asked to determine, is this an opinion or is this a fact? And the average was 7 out of 12. And they were like, the fact that we as a society have trouble discerning what is fact and what is opinion on top of these new AI generated things scares me to death going into this election year. Anyway,
it scares me about birds. I was like, in my Instagram feed, it's all birds and pugs. That's what it is. And I follow this bird page where they put up videos of all these different exotic birds. And 2 days ago, I was like, oh, these are really pretty. And I'm showing my mother-in-law. And then I'm like, how have I never seen these birds? And then I look down and they're AI generated. They look, so the birds exist, but they've changed like the coloring and the feathers and the texture and all of this. And it's just like, it looked,
you don't know what you can believe anymore.
Real. Yeah. It's so real. And so when you get stuff like that, and that's the things we're seeing now, and then we watch this movie, you know, that was made, what was the year?
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
So relevant to what we're doing now. And I'm just like, I would tell you, if you have not seen this movie since it came out, like watch it now and then just turn on the internet.
Just targeted ads. When he goes into the store and they're like, hi, John, welcome back to the Gap. How was your pants? You know, how did you like your pants? How did they fit? You know, and it's, you say something now and in 2 minutes, your phone is serving you an ad based on something you talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just such a smart movie. Like the script is incredible. The sound design is great. The set design, the special effects. This one just works on all levels for me. Should we jump into grades, or do you have any more thoughts?
No, I think we can jump into grades.
I think we know where I'm going with this one. To me, this is an A. I'd probably even go A+. Like I don't know that you could cut anything out of this film. I don't know that needed anything added. Like this fires on all levels from the beginning through the end. It still holds up, I think. And I'm kind of a harsh critic when it comes to, especially with like sci-fi, because that's kind of my jam and a lot of stuff. Like the latest Dune, I want to give it an A, and we'll talk about this when we get into it, but I'm not quite there. But this one to me on every level.
You told me it was an A. I have it in text writing.
It's you know what I gave it, but I didn't give it an A. But this one to me works on every level, like the music, the sets, the sound design, the casting, everything. This is a solid A, probably an A+ for me.
The puppies found me. This would be like a B plus A minus for me. It's hard for
Okay.
me to put it in the A category just because I do think everybody should watch it. And then if you have seen it, watch it again. But it's not something that I'm like, oh, you know what I want to watch right now? Minority Report. When somebody says it to me, I'm like, oh, what a good movie, right? If you haven't seen it, see it. If you haven't seen it in a while, watch it again. But I could probably watch this movie like every 10 years and be fine with it. I don't like need to watch it, but I respect it so much. And watching it again now, with everything we talked about and how relevant it still is, it got me very excited because of the conversations behind it.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a very well made movie.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give it an A. And I think the big reason why, I think the first time I saw this was closer to when it came out. And I think at that time it felt very futuristic and everything else. Watching it again, it doesn't feel dated, which is incredible for a sci-fi movie that's 22 years old. Like, that's really, really amazing. And so much of it was spot on to where we are now and where we're going. And the storytelling is top notch. I mean, it's what you expect from Steven Spielberg, and he doesn't
Right.
always give us what we expect, because sometimes he gives us Ready Player One. But this time he gives us what we expect, which is a great story. Tom Cruise obviously is always all in every role that he plays. This is really a movie that if you haven't seen it, you need to go check it out, because it hits a little different 22
Yeah.
years later than it did.
It does. I'll stick with my A minus because I agree. Like, it's just, yeah, for me, the fact that I don't feel like it has aged. Like, you could put that in theaters today, and I think the theater would be packed.
Yeah.
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 Well, probably
So-
not, because it's not a Marvel movie, so nobody would be.
Hey,
People are getting sick of those, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Ghostbusters did okay.
Did it?
Really quick, you guys. I this cracks me up. So I went and saw Late Night with the Devil. I know Val has seen it, but this cracks me up. Did you hear how much money it made on Sunday?
No.
It made $666,666.
Oh my gosh! Of course it did.
That's
just
from
really
Variety.
quick. What was your grade for that movie?
I'd probably go B plus. It didn't surprise me like I wanted it to, but cinematically, like, that was cool. Like, the fact that they made that look like something from the 70s was very, very cool. But that just cracked me up that it made $666,666.
It was probably almost there, but it wasn't. So then the whole crew went out to pay for the movie just so that it could hit the right numbers.
So anyway, that one, but yeah, Ghostbusters was the big hit over the weekend, which I haven't seen yet. But
I haven't seen it yet either, but need to go see it. I like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, for watching. We appreciate your support. We'll be back again with more AI movies. In fact, the next one is actually called AI, Artificial Intelligence. So
I will be honest, I've never actually seen this one.
Oh boy.
I can't wait for us to not agree.
This is him trying to do not Scorsese, the director of The Shining, Coppola. He was trying to be not Coppola, Kubrick. Jeez, my brain tonight. Originally this was going to be a Kubrick film, and then Steven took it over because Kubrick didn't get to it before he died. So yeah, I'm interested to check it out. I've never seen it, so
I don't think we're going to agree on a lot of things, but I could be surprised.
You never know. We agreed on Late Night with the Devil and with Roadhouse, so
all right.
Because weren't you like B plus B for Late Night?
Sure. I don't know. I'm so tired, you guys.
Everyone will have to tune in next time to see if Tracy and Val do or don't agree on
Spar on AI.
So thanks everybody for watching, and until next time, we won't see you at the movies.
Good night.